Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Box. On today's episode, we have Tobin Simpson, CEO of Project Host. Project Host is an organization here in Greenville County that uses food to nourish the hungry and train the unemployed. They believe that anyone that crosses their threshold should be welcomed and treated as a human being. And the time that we get to spend today with Tobin is great. You're going to hear his story about the unorthodox way he entered the doors of Project Host, which eventually led him to the seat of CEO. So don't miss a second of this episode. It's going to pull on your heartstrings. Hopefully it will motivate you into action right here on Beyond the Box. Tobin Simpson, as I live and breathe. Tobin, first thing I have to ask you is when I saw your name, I was immediately like Tobin, and then
right.
I think I listened to a podcast and it was Tobin, and I have to ask you, did anybody call you T-Bone in high school? If we were playing ball together.
No, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
I was called T-Bone. I worked at a car dealership for a brief period of time, and all the car salesmen called me T-Bone.
Okay, I was going to say, if that was not happening, then right here on Beyond the Box, I was going to make it happen because it has to happen.
Absolutely.
I mean, in high school, I tried to call myself Streak, but apparently nicknames need to occur outside of you.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So Tobin, give me a little background first about, let's start with you. Let's talk about you. What is your background? And then we'll talk about where you encountered Project Host and maybe how they came about. So
Sure.
Tell us a little about you.
Okay, so I guess the thing that led me toward Project Host was I was working in fine dining kitchens all throughout Greenville, making really beautiful food, expensive food for people with plenty of money and enjoying it. But I kind of got started in a volunteer capacity with Project Host, and then that was it. I was in.
Now, you have some experience in the kitchen, and is that adage true if you can't take the heat? Does it get pretty hot in there?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I worked a wood-fired grill at one place, and up on the left side of the ceiling up there was a thermometer, and it would read like 130 up there, like right over the fire. It was much more than that. Yeah.
So literally there's a temperature issue, but I'm sure that tempers can run high in the kitchen sometimes.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. I like to think the older I get, the calmer I get. So
we'd like to think that.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I don't know how our fuse operates. Sometimes I find out it's shorter than I thought it was.
Absolutely.
Especially going down 85 and ooh,
Yeah.
it's short. So your background is fine dining,
Mhm.
and it's interesting you said cooking high-end food for people with money.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like you're headed in a direction where there's a little contrast with
Absolutely.
that. So that's your background. How did you end up at Project Host?
Well, I had one night in particular where the tempers flared in the kitchen, and I lashed out in a way that landed me with some court-mandated volunteer opportunities.
Okay.
And
Court-mandated volunteer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to go in the soup kitchen, and I'm going to show them what it's all about. I was all full of myself, but I was quickly humbled by the work that was going on there.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay, so your background is the fine dining, people with money, all that stuff. What struck you? What humbled you when you stepped into the Project Host kitchen?
I think the thing that got me the most was that there were volunteers there of multiple age groups, multiple economic backgrounds, but there were individuals there that were one tragedy away from being on the other side of the soup kitchen line, right? To be receiving the meal rather than making it. And they did it with a loving heart. They gave wholeheartedly. I mean, just everything was done with kindness and with dignity. And I was like, this is it. I've got to be here. I need to do more of this.
I think that's an interesting observation, because if anybody could say, woe is me, it's probably those people that are one bad decision away from being on the other side, yet they were there.
Yeah.
In a capacity of servanthood.
Mm-hmm. And they work the hardest, and are the most glad to be there. And it's for the right reasons. And it was just really neat to see.
Now, a little bit about Project Host. Like, it's not new. It's been around a little while.
Since 1981.
81.
Yeah.
I kind of remember 81.
Yeah, I do vaguely.
Back in the 1900s.
Right.
Yeah.
Way back then.
Yeah,
the
so
olden days.
it is. What was the inception? Why did Project Host start?
Yeah, there was a lady at a local church, Christ Church, and she saw somebody who was rummaging around in a dumpster, like looking for food, and saw that there was a problem there, went to the congregation, and then they kind of pulled the money together and got started. Actually ended up starting at St. Andrew's at the parishioner's house, but it quickly outgrew that facility.
Yeah.
The need was there for a larger facility to welcome in as many guests as possible.
As I'm sure it is, because I'm not sure where you're watching this, but chances are, I know in Greenville, you can drive around and you get an impression like, oh, there are some needy people here. But I imagine when you get into those weeds, it's a even worse problem.
Yes,
when you're there. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah. So we're open 6 days a week, and on any given day, we're seeing between 120 and 150 individuals in a 1 hour time frame.
1 hour.
Yeah, and that's just at our physical location. We do remote meals with local churches where we'll send a casserole to a congregation to heat up and serve. We take a van, used to take our food truck out to communities that we knew there was a need. So that's another 500-600 meals a week. And then we've got other programs. So yeah, the need is great in Greenville.
That requires resources, like you need food you need ingredients.
Yes.
How does all of that happen? Where do those things come from?
Yeah. For Project Host, we're just lucky that we're in Greenville because of all the communities that we could be in. Greenville has just been the most welcoming to our endeavor. We have lots of individuals, lots of organizations that give to us monetarily, but also in the form of food donations. There are also other nonprofits in Greenville.
Right, I'm sure I've heard tale of those. Now let's talk about that, because I think that's the other thing is people have an idea that, oh, I'm going to go volunteer on a Saturday, or my church group is going to do that, and it's going to be like a prison line, or like the line in the military. He's got aluminum tray, and you're just like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
But it sounds like there's love in the kitchen creating these meals, because they're. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but tell me about the food.
No. It's one of those, we've got kind of an unwritten rule that if you wouldn't eat it yourself, we definitely don't serve it.
Wow. Yeah.
And the amount of pride that our volunteers take in the food that they're preparing it's amazing. They love what they do. They love to make sure that when they put that food on a tray and they're handing it across the line, that they're able to do so with their heads held high.
Right.
It's nice to see.
There is so much power in a meal. Mm-hmm. In time spent over food. I'm sure many of you can relate. I know, Thanksgivings can have that power. They can also have some negative connotation, but in this context where you've got these hearts that are pouring into the food being made, and they're proud to hand that over to people, I'm sure that changes lives more than just fills their stomach.
It does. And we had a capital campaign a couple of years ago, and the whole initiative behind that was one to kind of renovate our kitchen. It was 26 years old and needed a refresh, needed appliances that work reliably.
That does help.
It does. But the other thing was our dining room. It was that institutional small plexiglass windows, elbow to elbow, prison style lunch. But now we've got it. It's floor to ceiling windows. There's a lot of natural light, and it's cafe style. Mm-hmm. So you are sharing a meal with somebody. You're taking a reprieve from the day. To sit down and enjoy a meal.
So I'm sure, because you've been there a little while, mm-hmm. and it sounds like you've worked your way through to your seat there, literally, which I think is great, because there's empathy that you learn along the way, and but along that journey, is there a story or something that stands out to you, or the power of Project Host?
Yeah, I'll try and do it. There are a couple of them that really stick out. People always want to ask me. So I was a culinary instructor for a number of years, and in our culinary school, we're working with individuals with checkered backgrounds. There's a reason they're coming to us for this quick job skills training program. But there's a young gentleman in particular who was a failed suicide attempt, and he came through our program and just had so much rage inside of him. And you work with all different types online in the kitchen, and I was able to connect with him. His anger wasn't going to deter me. So we got to where we were friends, and we could have, just honest, open dialogue about why he was facing the adversity that he was. And turned out a lot of times it was his being an a-hole,
right?
Yeah. But yeah, that one really resonates strongly with me. And one other success story is we would teach classes to children coming out of high school. They were getting ready to age out of the special needs high school classes. So you've got all different sorts of limitations or things that we're trying to work around. And one young man in particular had poor eye-hand coordination to the point where he always needed help putting on his apron, and putting gloves on was almost impossible. But he worked at it for 3 weeks straight, and he would only ask for help when he was tired of trying. We got 3 weeks in, he put gloves on by himself for the first time, and we stopped, and that was a celebration. That's a victory to me. It's comes in all different shapes and forms.
Right. And I'm sure there are a litany of stories.
Oh, yeah.
And especially being around since 81. And also, I appreciate you sharing your story of how you ended up there, because it'd be easy to sidestep that. But it sounds like your entry into Project Host makes you approachable, makes you real, and being elbow to elbow with guys with anger problems or people with who knows what. I use that word empathy again, but you're probably in the best seat that you can be, having entered that way. I mean,
that's right.
What a success story there. So we talked about the resources, and I know that IPS supports you guys. I know you guys have a barbecue event every year. Unfortunately, this one, the one this year, kind of got blown away.
Literally.
Yeah. But real quick, go over some of the things that you do throughout the year and how folks can help.
We do monthly or bi-monthly community dinners where on the fourth Thursday of the month, we have a 3-course meal that's prepared by students and graduates of our culinary school. And I mean, it's good food. We wouldn't put our name on it if it wasn't. We'll have a holiday market the first Thursday in December, where we invite other nonprofits into Project Host, especially nonprofits with a social enterprise, to sit and share their message and have items for sale. So you can do some Christmas shopping and know that the money's going towards worthy programs. We have a plant sale, so we have a garden and greenhouse at Project Host. And
Did you grow your own food too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, because a lot of donations come in the form of dented cans and day old bread. It's not a lot of fresh produce. And while we want as many calories on a tray in the soup kitchen, because that might be the only meal that our guests eat, doesn't have to be empty calories. We try and put some nutritional value to it. So having a garden on site helps with that. But we do a plant sale, and it's a lot of ornamentals and veggie plants. But we make enough money from that plant sale to fund that one program. So the Gardening for Good program, it's the only one at Project Host right now, but it funds itself.
Right.
It's one less program I have to go to people with my hand out on.
Sure.
But for anybody that wants to get involved, projecthost.org. I mean, you can learn everything about the organization, and then there's a Get Involved tab where people can look and they can donate or of their time, money, whatever.
What is your greatest need right now?
Money is always great, just because we're able to look at where we need the most assistance and put that money to work. We lost power for a number of days, like a lot of people did with the hurricane. So we lost everything in our freezers and our walk-ins. So that's a lot of protein for us. So
like starting over, I bet that was a huge dent.
Yeah, everybody likes to do a good clean out, but that one was pretty heartbreaking.
Right.
So we're starting from scratch there, and it's nice to have the flexibility to purchase what we need when we need it.
Yeah, for
Our
sure.
buying power is better for food purveyors, the quantities we buy it at.
Right, the quantity and the quality, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And I'm assuming you always need hands too.
Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah.
So like funds and hands. So like I told you, we were going to blow through this time. I mean, it is going. But the good thing, Tobin, is if you would be willing, I'd love for you to come back maybe next year. Maybe, I don't know when would be a good time, but we'll connect. But we'll definitely have you next year so you can kind of look down the scope of what's coming in 2025. And Tobin, thank you so much for sharing your journey and how you ended up at Project Host. And thank you for what you all are doing and for giving us an opportunity to help you all and partner with you. And thank all of you for taking a few minutes of your time to learn more about Project Host and watch Beyond the Box. We'll see you next time.